Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. On this episode, we're going to continue to deep dive and discuss the ongoing civil war that is taking place inside of Ethiopia. We will conduct a brief analysis of the news and events that are currently occurring inside of that former nation state. So first, the fighting obviously continues in what I would define as the central and southern front along the border of Amhara. The Tigrayan Defense Forces continue its press south and continued operations deep into the Amhara region. As of now, obviously we know that Weldia has been completely taken over by the Tigrayan Defense Forces. The town of Mersa has been enveloped and taken over, and as we speak, fighting is continuing in and around and south of Wakale and the approaches of the goal of the TDF, which would appear the envelopment and seizure of the town of Dese. There has been very significant fighting in recent days near Wakale and south of Wakale, and those engagements continue. In other areas of the front, Tigrayan Defense Forces are now in the process of enveloping Debre Tabor. So we do know that Tigrayan Defense Forces are to the north, to the south, and look to possibly again envelop Debre Tabor before seeking that city's capitulation. We also know that forces of the Tigrayan Defense Forces have actually pressed further than Debre Tabor, and it would appear that reconnaissance elements of the TDF are looking at the defensive operations that are occurring near Wareta. Now, Wareta is very crucial as this is a vital road junction. The road from Wareta leads north towards Gondar, and then obviously south towards Bahir Dar. And it is difficult to look at in terms of what the TDF will go after next. So Bahir Dar obviously is a smaller city than Gondar, but it has the vital air base. And as the TDF get closer and closer to Bahir Dar, it's going to become closer and closer to the possibility of receiving attacks by ground attack aircraft that could be based at Bahir Dar. Now, we have seen that the effectiveness of the Ethiopian Air Force in terms of its ability to engage ground targets is not very proficient. So that could possibly cause the Tigrayan Defense Forces to look further north and focus its efforts on seizing the key Amharan town of Gondar. Now, again, if the TDF does not see these fighter aircraft, these fighter bombers that are based in Bahir Dar as a ongoing threat, meaning their accuracy in attacking targets is again not very proficient, they may just press on and attack Gondar from two fronts. And what is also occurring now is there is an operation underway near Debark. So we had seen a pause in operations near Debark. The Tigrayan Defense Forces were consolidating its positions north of the town and had not completely seized key terrain features. And some of these battles went back and forth in terms of possession of these terrain features. And obviously, the Amhara militias and paramilitaries and the remnants of the Ethiopian army have indeed attempted to reinforce Debark. Now, the question is in reinforcing Debark, did that cause a setback in other areas of operations that were going on in other parts of the country, such as the advance south towards Dese, and then obviously the advance towards Debre Tabor? And we could be now seeing more resources from the Amhara region, from the Ethiopian government, from forces that may have been near Debark and Gondar being pushed south and east to prevent this advance to cut off the road junction near Tana Lake. And again, as I had talked about before, then that would leave the ability of the Tigrayan Defense Forces to possibly press on and take the town of Debark, or push past this mountain range. And now I think the Amhara militias and the Ethiopian government are going to be looking at an attack on Gondar from two fronts, from north and south. And that could be the case. I would imagine that the fall of Gondar would have an immense a political reaction from the leadership within the Amhara region, and obviously Addis Ababa as well. So I would think that militarily it would probably be more prudent to get rid of this airbase before moving on to Gondar. However, depending on the resistance, the political ramifications of the fall of Gondar could be far more significant than the military objectives of knocking out Bahir Dar. But we will see in the coming days how that progresses. But right now, we do know that that TDF units have actually approached the vicinity of Tana Lake, and have actually approached the Wareta junction that will basically shut down a lot of traffic that would ordinarily flow from the vicinity of southern Ethiopia, obviously Addis Ababa, towards Gondar. That would mean that an alternate route would need to be located in terms of going around Tana Lake and then possibly supplying Gondar from that route, which would obviously be more challenging and difficult, and it's a longer distance as well. But it would appear that we are seeing the general collapse of the Ethiopian state. A lot of resources are now fleeing areas from the front, quite possibly heading towards Addis Ababa, and looking to defend the capital and possibly spread the line of supply for the Tigrayan Defense Forces a great distance. And that could be a possible strategy that the Abiy Ahmed regime is looking to conduct, the Ethiopian army as well, obviously. But I don't believe that the Ethiopian army, if it had the capability to prevent the loss of Weldia, to prevent the loss of Lalibela, to prevent even the loss of Kobo. Kobo was really the first major realistic defeat where we could see that the Ethiopian army just did not have the capability really to conduct adequate defensive operation, much less these talks of renewed offensive operation. So if you can't defend key cities and towns from the Tigrayan Defense Forces, then you're not going to be able to launch an offensive back into the Tigray region, especially with what's going on along the central front. But that is currently what is occurring. We continue to hear reports that there is advances towards the town of Sakota. and that could be resolved within the next several days, possibly. Obviously, Sokoto is located in a very mountainous area, so we will have to see how that actually resolves itself. But I would anticipate the way these other cities are now starting to fall, we could see Sokoto come under the complete control of the TDF and its local allies as well. But I would also like to mention the uptick in operations by the Oromo Liberation Army. As we know, there is now a political alliance, an agreement that I would define as the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that would appear the sort of relationship that now exists between the OLA and the TDF. But it would appear that the OLA is very active, uh, really all across the Oromia region, and specifically now we're looking at the possibility of main supply arteries being cut in the south from resources that could be coming up from Nairobi in Kenya and up into Ethiopia. But it would appear that the OLA is now in the process of cutting off some of those supply routes. And again, that's going to make it very difficult for the Ethiopian army to continue and the Ethiopian state to continue as an ongoing concern and entity. With really, they're facing now a multiple front war, and they've already suffered many just catastrophic defeats, especially in the Amhara region. And we continue to hear reports of ambushes and battlefield defeats uh, uh, upon the Ethiopian army. And we continue to see prisoners of war coming in from POWs from the Ethiopian side that are really ragtag and dishuttled and just really not a force that is obviously properly trained, properly equipped to continue operations, offensive operations, defensive operations, really any form of military operations. It would appear that the Ethiopian state is now deploying what we would call cannon fodder into the equation. And again, these are just really undertrained personnel who are just being sent in hopes that they are able to pause the advance or interrupt the advance in some way of the Tigrayan Defense Forces. But unfortunately for the Ethiopian state, that is not occurring. The TDF continues to advance, and now we are looking at the road junction near Tana Lake, and then a possible final assault on Gondar, and then a move towards Bahir Dar in the near future. Have a great day, everybody.